Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm your host, Dr. Haider Shah, and on behalf of Calvas, I would like to welcome all of you to this webinar. Thank you very much for joining us. Today, we have another very interesting topic, and I'm really honored to welcome and introduce our distinguished guest speaker, who is going to talk about the soft skills required for future employment. What types of skills are often called soft skills that are needed for future employment? What is the balanced skill set for that? Yes, indeed, a very interesting topic. I'm sure in this session you are going to learn new amazing things as we have an expert in this session today. So stay tuned because an amazing stuff are coming ahead in this session. So before we start, I would like to thank all of us for arranging such enlightenment sessions, for their support and providing us such a wonderful platform. The aim of Calvas is to give you the opportunity to connect and interact with world renowned speakers, academic leaders, teachers, authors, researchers, experts, professionals, and businessmen to learn from their experiences, recommendations, suggestions, and tips which will create an impact and will enable you to learn and develop yourself in order to grow and transform individually as well as to contribute to the world in a positive way. As our slogan is come, learn, and share knowledge. So today we have an amazing person as guest. She is a versatile person with an amazing great qualities, having vast experience and exposure, an internationally known and recognized speaker. We always see her on different platforms while contributing to the field and world. Moreover, through her dynamic personality, she is inspiring female role models. So let me introduce her formally. She is an educator, author of 11 publication, and serial entrepreneur from Luxembourg, founder of the Women Association from Luxembourg, the Federation, the famous enterprises FFCEL in 2004, famous leaders, the Luxembourg in 2017, and Inspiring Women in 2009. She holds an MBA from the Welles College of Business, Sacred Heart University, with a double concentration in international business and marketing, and a master in management from the Faculty of Engineering, University of Lausanne, Blaga Wofer, Sibiu. She is a PhD candidate at the University of Luxembourg. Her research focuses on the topic perception and attitude of vocation education actors related to the soft skills for future employment. She is since 2004 CEO of Languages, a language school and translation center based in Luxembourg, Europe. Moreover, she is also an international independent director certified by NCID France, where she obtained a certificate in corporate governance 2015, a certificate in a global management 2017, a certificate in advanced industrial marketing 2016, and a certificate in a competitive strategy 2015. Moreover, she has been teaching at University of Cooperative Education in Germany and is regular giving lectures in Luxembourg and abroad on entrepreneurship, marketing, and education. In addition to that, in 2013, she has been elected Women Inspiring Europe by the European Commission's European Institute for Gender Equality for her contribution to promoting inspiring female role models. Last but not the least, she is a wonderful speaker, author, teacher, researcher, professional, and above everything, a great human being. So please help me in welcoming our guest, Miss Daniela-Lacramioara. Welcome to the Calvas platform, and thank you very much for joining us, ma'am.
Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. It's really a pleasure to be here with you and with your students. Too bad
Yes,
that I cannot see them, but I can feel the energy is there through you. So it's fantastic to be here with you
it's
and to
our
contribute.
pleasure, and thank you so much for giving us time. It would be lovely to see your presentation and question answer session. A gentle reminder to the audience that Prof will be presenting, and she would leave time for question answer session at the end of this session. So if you have any question, you can write in comment section or you can email us at info@calvas.com. So over to you, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So when Dr. Haider Shah invited me, I thought about taking some of the main elements of my research, but kind of adapt them to the necessity and to the needs that you might have. And as we are discussing, in Luxembourg and Pakistan, we might be in different parts of the world. However, we are sharing a lot of things, and the challenges that we have in, be it in the business, in the marketplace, or in the universities, or in terms of recruitment. I think there are a lot of very similar challenges, and of course, the trends that we are seeing around us and that we are really feeling in all our activities are actually something that are universal. So things that happen here in Luxembourg might be really useful for you, and things that you might share with me from Pakistan might be really useful for us here in Luxembourg in Europe. For those of you who don't know, Luxembourg is a quite small country in the center of Europe, and the particularity of our country is that we speak a lot of languages and we adapt very easily to the market. And it's also that we have a lot of workers who come from the neighboring countries. And I think this is also very interesting for you, because in the examples that I will give you, I try to show you and to compare what's going on in the world, but also specifically in Luxembourg. And I know that a lot of very good professionals from Pakistan are coming to Europe. So, and you will see that Luxembourg actually is hiring a lot. So this might come as a very interesting presentation for you. So how I try to map this presentation is, first of all, to look a little bit at the current context, and then at the occupations forecast in the US, UK a little bit, because this is something that you might hear about a little bit more often. And then I want to give you some specific examples from Luxembourg, because this is the place that I'm doing my research, and it's the place that I probably know the best. And we will see some of the most in demand, the growing, declining occupations, specifically in the financial sector. And then we would look what needs to change, because there are all these changes in the market, as we will see shortly, that requires us to adapt to the new needs of employers. We will need to have the right skills, but how do we get the right skills? Well, usually from the learning curriculum, from the university, from other organizations. And we'll look particularly at some examples, engineers, bus drivers, and then I will give you a homework that you think about the change of skills in politicians. We can discuss shortly about this, because it's really very, very interesting to look at the changes that are being operated in our market and in our economy. And why do we see all these changes? Because we have, first of all, digitalization. This is not something we were talking about with Dr. Haider Shah earlier. It's something that has been accelerated indeed because of the pandemic. However, this is something that has been going on for the last 10 to 20 years, right? So it's something that we knew it's coming. It's just that now it's so much quicker. It happened so much quicker. It really hit us. It hit us in the education. We had to adapt very quickly, or you're out. Yeah, you are no longer valid in the market. And then, of course, you have all these demographic changes, and you know a lot in Asia about this. We have the migration. And just to give you an example, for example, the Indian community in Luxembourg is one of the fastest growing communities. So it just happened in the last 5 years. And for me, because I'm very close to this Indian community from Luxembourg, it's very interesting, because I can see that. I can see how families are joining, their brothers or uncles, or I can see all this phenomenon from, internally. And sometimes you don't see all these changes. You just figure out 10 years later that, wow, now we have a certain percentage of the population, like it happened in Luxembourg. We have 47% of the population, which is non-Luxembourgers. in addition to another maybe 10 to 15% of the population, which is new Luxembourgers like myself. So we just came to this country. I came more than 20 years ago. I consider this my home now. And so suddenly you have such a big percentage of the population which has different journeys, has had different journeys, is coming with different cultural backgrounds, and all this cultural background sometimes bring also soft skills. We will see, yeah. It's like in certain cultures, like the Indian and Pakistani culture, you have this great respect for the elderly. This is something that I particularly appreciate, because also in the workplace it gives a lot of a value. Yeah, then it's not just the authority, the respect for authority, but also the openness to collaborate, to help, the willingness to support the elderly in your company, in your organization. So all these things, you might not necessarily think that they are an added value that you bring to a company, but actually they are. And it's important to think of all these little things, because okay, most of you maybe are educated, most of you maybe went to do a master degree or a PhD, but some of you maybe didn't. And sometimes you don't think about some of the skills that you gain through informal education, through being a volunteer in an organization. You don't necessarily think that those are good soft skills that might really help you get a job. But you need to start actually giving more value to those skills. And this is what I'm trying a little bit to show you today. So, of course, there are a lot of questions that we could ask ourselves when it comes to soft skills. What is the role of educators? Okay, Dr. Shah is doing a fantastic job of helping, supporting this community of educators and students. What is the role of businesses? I mean, is the role of business to train you? I think it is. I think it is. So are we talking about a shared responsibility? This is really how we have to look at it. And sometimes we forget as well about this. We think, okay, the government has to do everything for me. The business has to do everything for me. I have to receive courses. What is your personal responsibility as well? So what is the role of recruiter as well? So I just took some of the elements from my research, which is very specifically about perceptions and attitudes, and very specifically in the vocational education area. And we look at students and connected employers, how they think, how they feel about the soft skills that are needed for future employment. But in this presentation, I will not necessarily give you those elements, because probably you're not from that part, that field of education, vocational education. But let's look together at what's happening sometimes in companies. Now, you can see here a board of a company. What if we don't change at all and something magical just happens? This is just staying in your comfort zone. Everything is fine. You can see that the sales and the profits are going down. But okay, maybe God will show us the path during, in our dreams, and then something magical will happen. Sometimes it happens like that. And it happens also when you don't have enough diversity, when you can see that here you have a certain type of persons in this board. So, sometimes you're just very comfortable in your situation, and why change? Maybe something will just let it go, and then something magical will happen. But here you can see another example. We need to do something so innovative that no brand has ever done anything like it. And then, of course, somebody prepares something and presents to the leadership. And what's the answer that we might get? Seems risky. Can you give examples of other brands that have done this? So that's again an example. It's like, okay, we want to do something so innovative. We want to be the first in the market at doing something, but then it's a little bit too risky. Let's see first other companies doing it, then we'll do it. So that happens very often in our companies, and we need to change that. We need to change the leadership, we need to change those who make the decisions, and we need to change our mentality at all the levels of the hierarchy. And you can see some of the mega trends that actually influence the job market of 2030, because we are talking here about anticipating the needs, because in education, if you're just looking at what's currently in need, okay, this company needs tomorrow two IT programmers. Okay, that's fine. But what will happen? We need, as educators, to think what will happen in 10 years, in 15 years, and we need to take the steps to anticipate those needs of companies, those needs of people as well, to remain competitive on the market. And some of the research, last year there was a big research about the future of work after the pandemic, and the McKinsey Institute, a global institute, they were showing this very shocking numbers. 1 in 16 people will actually have to change not only jobs but also industries. And who will be the most affected? Usually the young people, the less educated workers, women, and migrants. So if you're thinking about migrating, going to a different continent, a different country, then certainly you have to ask yourself a lot of questions about the skills that you would need ideally to have in the future. And some of the other, so the mega trends you can see here, the demographic change, we mentioned it before, of course, the globalization, but urbanization as well. Yeah, we have all these urban areas and not enough rural areas. This is, of course, creating having a certain impact on life or how it is organized. And we will see the example of engineers in a few moments. So all this environmental sustainability, technological change, the political uncertainty, the increasing inequality between not only women and men, but sometimes, between migrants. So a lot of inequalities between rich and poor. All this have an impact on how the job market will look in 2030. And so here I have a list of top skills for 2030. And you can see I took the US and UK as examples because, of course, we very, very often refer to this big powers. It's easier to understand, and also they speak in English. So I don't have any other statistics from India, for example, or some countries that are closer to you. And also it's a little bit further from my areas of research, but here you can see some of the 10 skills that will be requested in 2030. So learning strategies, learning to learn, psychology, understanding how to work in a team, how the others are maybe reacting to something that you say, to something you don't say, to something that you do or you don't do, like greetings, how do we greet, a lot of different things. Instructing, social perceptiveness, so being aware of cultural differences, for example, respecting, mutual respect in terms of these differences. Then sociology and anthropology, and we'll have an example a little bit later in, related to a job that you will not necessarily think that is linked to sociology and anthropology. Education and training, coordination, originality, fluency of ideas, and of course, active learning. This is what we are doing right now. And if you are here, actually, it means that you are really open to improve yourself, that you are aware that lifelong learning is really the key. I mean, even me, I always like to go to conferences, and I always like to take some challenging professional courses, because it's important to always keep yourself on top of the, not because you know what's going on today, that you will still be competitive in the future. So you need to really keep learning on a regular basis. In the UK, you can see also some of the top 10 skills for the future: judgment and decision making. Of course, you will see that some of these skills are not so easily to quantify, or so easily to say, yes, I have a good judgment and I'm really good at decision making. How do you evaluate? How do you assess these skills? And I will give you a little bit. Because just before the the presentation started, Dr. Shah told me that you might be interested. So I just added a few resources that you might want to test yourself and to assess your own skills once we are done with this presentation. Fluency of ideas, active learning, learning strategies, originality, system evaluation, deductive reasoning, complex problem solving. I mean, how do you assess complex problem solving unless you're really in different situations and the employer can really see how you react because very often it's not just that it's complex, but you also have some deadlines and you have to react really quickly. So many different elements: system analysis, monitoring. So I don't know if some of these skills are talking to you, but I will give you some examples, and maybe you will understand a little bit better how to interpret these different skills. So here you can see also the skills, how they translate into top occupations that are expected to be in 2030. I do not know how these people have done. I mean, what elements they look at, but I will show you some of the statistics in Luxembourg. And in Luxembourg, when we do this kind of statistics at the occupations that are really the most in demand, or the declining, or the growing, we look at the number of actually, that's not me, it's the unemployment organization that looked and calculated based on the number of jobs that were registered with them. So you really look at the growing demand in the last 5 years or 10 years, and you anticipate and you calculate based on some sophisticated formula. So here you can see some of the top 10 occupations predicted to experience increased demand through 2030. Again, you have some examples in the US, you have some examples in the UK. They might be very similar to what you have in your country or what we have in Europe, because you will see that there are a lot of occupations related to care, human being, caring about the elderly, because as you know, everywhere in the world we have a population that it's older and older, so we need we need to balance that by bringing people from Africa, or it's quite complex. We're not going to get into that topic, but in any case, you can see that there is a need for preschool, primary, secondary, special education, school teachers, animal care and service workers, lawyers, judges, related workers, post-secondary teachers, engineers, personal appearance workers, because it's about branding, it's about communication, how you communicate through the way you look, social scientists and related workers, counselors, social workers, other community and social service specialists, librarians, curators, archivists, entertainers and performers, sports and related workers. So I don't know if this are speaking to you in any way, but this is what research shows. I will just go to this, for example, in Luxembourg. So in Luxembourg, I looked at the last research that was being presented, I think, a month ago. And you can see some of the declining occupations, but particularly in the financial sector, because the financial sector is one of the biggest sectors, is the most successful one in Luxembourg. And that's why we give a particular attention to this sector. So you can see it's a little bit small, but you can see that what are the declining occupations insurance customer advisor, insurance department manager, bank receptionist. So you can understand if there are less bank receptionists. Why? Because everything is being digitalized. Yeah, everything is. You no longer go to the bank to discuss to the receptionist, but you will just log on. So it's kind of logical that these jobs are declining. And you can see everything related to back office and admin clerk, because a lot of these things are being automatized. Yeah. And for example, we also have a fantastic company, a startup in Luxembourg that it's called Email Tree. And what they do is they created different systems to automatize customer relationship. Yeah, so which means that all those people from big companies working in customer relationship, then they will kind of lose their jobs. Yeah, because everything will be automatized and able to respond automatically. So, for example, if you have 100 people working in a department, then from 100, maybe you can only keep 10, because the rest is really automized in different languages, all the languages that we use here in Luxembourg, which are 3 official languages: French, German, and Luxembourgish, plus English, which is widely used. So all these things that are generally requested will be automized, and the jobs will obviously be in decline, and only a very small percentage will remain. Then you have some 3 jobs here: IT system administrator, IT functional analyst, IT developer. But this is really, you don't have to understand that these jobs are declining per se, but it's actually the fact that a lot of companies are outsourcing these services to external providers. And you know that India is really, in India and Pakistan, you have a lot of companies doing customer support, IT support for a lot of companies in Europe and in the US. And also here you have some examples. The drop in functional analysts, for example, is also due to outsourcing, but also to the fact that other profiles like project managers, business experts often now cover this activity. And then if you look at the drop, the decline in terms of generic developers, this is also explained by the fact that now you have more and more specific requirements. So more specialized developers. It's not just being an IT developer in general, but now you have somebody who works very specifically on networks, somebody who works very specifically on different, so very more and more specialized profiles. Here you can see the occupations most in demand. Again, it's employers in the financial sector in Luxembourg. And yeah, we don't have during the pandemic. So this is until 2020. You can see fund officer, KIC analyst, fund account. So a lot of jobs related to funds, because Luxembourg is really very strong internationally in funds. You can see business analysts, project manager. Project manager is not just, so some of these jobs actually can be found also in other fields of activity, not just in the financial sector. As you can see here, there are some, so the growing, in terms of growing occupation, you can see, for example, transversal professions, yeah, financial risk manager, financial analyst, management controller, but a lot of support roles as well. So these are 14 growing occupations in the financial sector, but HR development, for example, is not just specific to the financial sector or the IT project management. I mean, they could work in very diverse environments, or IT software engineer, IT security manager. So this gives you a good idea about the potential that in terms of jobs that you might find in Luxembourg. Voila. Okay, so here you can see as well. I thought it's really interesting to see the occupations with the greatest shortage of candidates. So there are some links with what you just saw before. In banking customer service manager, fund officer, fund accountant, but also transversal occupations in finance. Yeah, financial analyst. I mean, you have a financial analyst also in a steel company, or you have it in different type of companies. Accountant, management controller, legal secretary. Of course, it's so it's transversal. Then you can see as well some other transversal occupations in finance. Again, tax specialist, KIC analyst, financial risk manager. So all these are occupations that right now show the greatest shortage of candidates. And you can see also the rate of unmatched vacancies right now. So it's pretty, here, for example, tax specialists, you have 63%, as well as fund accountant, because these are, I mean, you have so many companies and funds is also one of the specialty of Luxembourg. So of course, specialists in this specific field are very, very much in demand. But as you can see also here, because Pakistan and India are both extremely good in terms of IT projects, you can see that here there is a huge demand because a huge shortage of candidates. Here, again, information systems architect. Here you can see there is a 66% shortage of candidates. Yeah, so 61 IT software engineer, IT security manager, business intelligence analyst. The rate on unmatched vacancies is really very high. And here is the highest. You can see 79% business intelligence developer. So as you can see, if you're looking for a job and you have this specialization, then you know where to look or where to start looking. Here we have some of the emerging occupations, because we were mentioning earlier that we have so many jobs that are disappearing, but also a lot of jobs and new jobs, yeah, that are emerging. And why do we call them emerging? Is that they were not in demand 5 years ago, but they really start to appear. Increasing in terms of job vacancies. And you have economists specialized in financial markets, you have assistants, legal assistants, office managers, and a lot of digital related occupations, digital product managers, digital marketing managers, and of course all these occupations specialized in IT. Cloud, IT security, business intelligence, big data, all these jobs are things that will be probably a lot requested in the years to come. So it's something that if you have a special passion and interest for IT, then I encourage you to look a little bit closer at this specific requirements. Maybe they are also in your part of the world, I do not know, but in Europe there's definitely a shortage of candidates in these jobs. And so there are a lot of questions, of course, which are being asked connected to all these changes. It's like, how are the relationships with customers and suppliers changing? What is the importance and the impact of using blockchain, for example, or all the energy transition that is being put into place now at the European Union level? So what are all these, how all these new laws and new, the transition to a more environmental friendly business and world will change our jobs? All these are questions that, of course, require a lot of reflection, but we don't necessarily have a very clear answer, because everything is still in progress, is work in progress, and we have to adapt to what is happening. So if we ask ourselves what really needs to change right now, it's clear that as also Dr. Shah was mentioning, there is an existing gap, yeah, between the skills that are needed by employers and those available in the market. Here are some numbers, again, just related to Luxembourg, because we had an 8% of the growth of the population. So it's quite a lot. This is due to the international migration. And you can see also that the number of arrivals has almost doubled, more than 100%, so 118.8%. So how do we do to really close the gap between the skills that are needed and what we have available on the market? It's not easy. Actually, it's not easy. And I'm looking personally at some of the skills that bus drivers need, for example. And of course, your first idea might go, okay, what's so complicated? I mean, a bus driver, he needs to drive, right? Or I talk to people in construction, to entrepreneurs who have companies, and ask them, okay, what do you think? Somebody who works in construction, what kind of skills does this person need? And usually they just think about one thing. I just need them the hard skills. They need to, I don't know, to install something, or like the very specific skill, but they don't think very often about for example, the sense of responsibility, the teamwork skills. And you will see in the next minutes that these are also extremely, extremely, extremely important. And so all these skills, we call them soft skills, but of course it's not always a very good name, because when you think of soft, it's maybe, it's soft, it's not so important, we might think. But the term is not really the best, I would say. In French, we have something else that is called Transversus skills, which is actually, it's those skills I have here actually for you. So so it's those skills that are not job specific, compared to the hard skills that are very strictly job specific. Here it's something that is connected with personal attitudes and are intangible. So it makes more difficult to be quantified and developed. As I said, when we refer to soft skills, we have different terminologies, but there is still a large variety of names that are used as synonyms: generic skills, essential skills, skills for life, basic skills, people skills, key skills, competencies, employability skills, core skills, and transversal skills. This is coming from French, from the French terminology. And actually, it's really good because it shows that it can be used in different fields of activities, not just something that you learn specifically for funds. How do you calculate? I don't know, you're an accountant and you just learn, okay, this is the VAT law. How do you calculate the 17%? I need to calculate. No, this is the soft skills is something that you can use whether you work in finance, whether you work as a bus driver, as an engineer, as a construction worker. So this is why they are so important, and they will be even more. So, for example, here I wanted to have you picturing in your mind a civil or a mechanical engineer. And then you can consider these two questions. What characteristics do you currently associate with engineers? So we don't have now the interactivity, so to have you answer. So we'll just imagine that you are answering in your, for yourself. What characteristic do you currently associate with an engineer? And what skills do engineers currently need to utilize? So just take 30 seconds to think about, what skills do you engineers currently need to utilize? And now let's consider the list of skills of knowledge below: sociology and anthropology. I told you earlier that we are going to look at this skill related to a job that you don't necessarily think right away that is linked. Fluency of ideas, service orientation, social perceptiveness, active listening, complex problem solving. When I read any of these 6 skills and knowledge, did engineer immediately came to your mind? It's too bad that we don't have a way to, but I know usually when I ask people, like 90% of them did not think, did not associate any of these skills to the job of engineer. But if we look at how the engineers will have to work in 2030, you can see the 6 skills. And why are they important? Because of all this, we were talking about the mega trend urbanization, yeah, all these changes in our societies. So if we just look at urbanization, it's clear and clear that they don't just design a structure, yeah. They actually have to really understand how those structures are used on a daily life, how they could have a purpose of, for example, bringing people together, how to support a high density urban community. So they have to really have a lot of these skills that we don't necessarily think about. Knowledge of sociology and anthropology, yeah, it's essential because you have to design structures that are human-centered. Yeah, so it's like you have to understand how people function, how they used in the past, how they are changing now. Social perceptiveness, ability to actively listen and ideate to solve complex problems, for example, gentrification. So if you really think in detail about the job of engineer, it's really changing from the past. It's not just building something in the middle of the, I don't know, on the mountain, and that's it. Okay, then we go to the next. No, you really have to see to have a vision of how you plan, and you can see also some good examples of urban planning and some really bad examples of urban planning. And yeah, I did not include some of these examples here, like to have some pictures of. But for example, if you look at the way the New York, the city of New York is planned, it's like it has a very clear structure. It's really easily, it's very easy to find. The streets are numbered. If you look at other urban areas, it's extremely complicated with so it's really this job of engineer needs to evolve, needs to progress in terms of skills that are being needed. And so I really wanted you to look from a different perspective, and I hope it helps you to see it a little bit differently. And as I was mentioning to you bus drivers, because this is the topic of my research. So even the skills that are requested from a bus driver to perform well his job, for example, in France compared to here, Belgium or Singapore, I gave you different examples, but they are so different. If you really look at this, the skills that are requested, soft skills, yeah, are really different. So we'll just look at, for example, the first two, conflict management. So they did some kind of research. I did not find exactly the way that they did the research and the statistics, but conflict management and the very specific skill to be discreet came at a rate of 100% to retain oneself, to disclose information and respect confidentiality. So this appeared to be the number one thing that is requested from a bus driver to perform well in his job in France. And then have problem resolution, sense of organization, 79%, Conflict management, to be rigorous, 78%. Pay attention to details, be careful about verifying and controlling in order to reduce uncertainty in his actions. But let's look at what skills are requested in Belgium, which is actually these are some of our two neighbors in Luxembourg. Yeah, so we are surrounded by three countries: France, Belgium, and Germany. So, so let's see if in Belgium, they require methodological soft skills, adaptability and autonomy, including the capacity to react in an appropriate way when specific requests are received, to intervene and find in an autonomous way appropriate solutions. And then you have, of course, social soft skills, capacity to collaborate with the others using appropriate communication and cooperation, and collaborative soft skills. If you look now at Singapore, this was very interesting for me because Singapore is really focusing on the people soft skills. The people soft skill, because they even use a different name. So they don't refer to bus drivers as bus drivers, but as bus captain. So all the bus drivers are called bus captain, which is, of course, giving a completely different vision of the job. So when you talk about the bus captain, right away you give more value to that person, to that job, to that occupation, because he's a captain. Yeah, you can right away have this vision of, the person who's really taking care of his team, of his people, of his boat, in this case, bus. So it's very interesting. And in terms of soft skills that are associated to the leader of the bus, they have conflict management, to be discreet. You can see that this is something that we had also in France, discretion. Problem resolution. Some of this we saw already in the other countries. Sense of organization. And in terms of conflict management, of course, and to be rigorous. This we also saw in other countries. Now, if you look at Canada, the most important essential skill for bus driver, so they not just bus drivers, but also subway operators and other transit operators are being considered oral communication and problem solving. I don't know if you ever thought about the job of a bus driver like this, like problem solver. But it's really interesting because indeed, when you have, for example, people that are unrest in the bus, or they're aggressive towards other passengers. I mean, these kind of skills are extremely important, and sometimes we really don't think about. So, when you assess yourself, when you assess your skills, it's important to know your value as well, because you might have some of these skills that you never thought they are really skills. So it's good to really be aware of your own value. Yeah? Here I also had the same job of bus driver, but in the United States, and you can see that they have a different perspective. Yeah. So, for example, they are talking about pedagogical skills, learning to learn. Because this kind of job is focused on assisting, serving, always learning, learning how to please a client, how to smile, how to serve a client, how to counsel a client, to coach or to teach other people in the team. And then you have positive leadership. This is also something that maybe we don't necessarily think about when we say bus driver. But it's true that they need to demonstrate authority because of possible traffic congestion, sometimes unruly passengers. Bus drivers are put in stressful situations indeed, and they must be able to continue to very calmly operate their bus. So all the skills are extremely important. I mean, you wouldn't want to be in a bus with a driver who's aggressive and who's shouting to other drivers or to the people in the bus. So all these qualities, all these skills are incredibly significant for this job. And of course, the sense of human relations. Yeah, as I said, we don't necessarily think of it. We think, okay, the bus driver is just driving, but actually they have to regularly interact with passengers. They must be, very polite, helpful. So these are important skills. Here I added some of resources that are initially thought for teachers, but actually you can also use them. And these resources, I think we can agree with Dr. Shah that you can receive a copy of this. Because, for example, here, these are some European projects that have been developed in Europe in the past, and they help you actually to assess your skills. For example, if you look, actually, we cannot go outside of this, but you can try yourself on your computer. Because these are assessments, self-assessments, yeah. So you can do them by yourself, and you can assess what are your social and civic skills. So 21 specific skills: learning to learn, 8 skills; sense of initiative and entrepreneurship. How do you assess your digital competence? So it will help you to look at different 4 different skills. And you always have a scale from 1, no skills, to 10, perfect skills. So it will ask you some questions that you need to answer to, and you will find it in English, Lithuanian, Spanish, Italian, and Latvian. I think the English probably will be the best. But also here you have another assessment platform that is also in English, and this tool includes several sections and a total of 15 skills that you can assess yourself. And it also includes digital skills, because Dr. Shah mentioned to me that some of you were asking specific questions about this. But you can also see leadership, self-evaluation, adaptability, and flexibility. Of course, all these tools, they cannot be like 100% accurate, because the way that we assess, as we said, all these soft skills are intangible. So it's just a way to give you a sense of your skills, but it's nothing that, because, for example, as an employer, I might have a different way of assessing your skills, because I can ask you a specific situation. How would you react in a specific situation? If I want to understand your sense of initiative, or if you are good at solving complex situations. So I will ask you specific, I will put you in a specific situation and ask you to think about your possible reaction. But of course, all these are just situations that we imagine. But when you are really in the situation under stress, that's actually when we can really assess your skills, because you have a lot of pressure, you have to react really quickly. And we know we can have different reactions than when we talk about and we think and we have 10 minutes to think about. Yeah, in those situations, you don't have time, you have to react. So nothing is better than different work experiences to actually train your different skills. And also voluntary projects are extremely useful to train your soft skills, if you are wondering how you can train your soft skills. Here you have some other resources. It's also another tool, and you have the link here, the assessment tool. And this is another one, teaching entrepreneurship activities, work-based learning. So all these things, actually, that you can use them by yourself. So you don't need to have a teacher, but this could also be used by teachers for, secondary school or university students. Yeah. And this is also something else, but this is a really big document with a lot of activities that you can do. Usually, it's better to be done in groups, in little groups, because yeah, if you work on developing your teamwork skill, then of course you need to work with actually to do something, a kind of project with other people, and so you have there. Um, I will share all this with you, and you can use all these materials and these resources to train yourself. Yeah, to see, because this also gives you a better understanding of what your employers might look for. Yeah, so it could be really useful to train yourself and improve your skills even further. Some other activities here that I will be sharing with you. Yeah, so I think that was what I have prepared. And now we can, of course, have some more time for question and answers. I mean, there is so much to be said, but I don't want to talk just by myself. So it's something to, to give you the basis, and then we can discuss further. And I would love to have your comments and opinions on what I have presented, or if you have a different opinion to mine, feel free to share it.
Thank you very much, Prof. What a wonderful presentation and what a great content you have shared with our audience around the globe. And really very interesting. And I love the way you started it from the current context. Then you talked about the role of the educator, the businessman, and then you went on saying the what are the future 2030 about the soft skills. Then you very nicely came up with the statistics, which I would say that these are the beauty of the researcher, that they always come up with the references. They give the justification why do they think and how do they forecast the thing. Very nicely mentioned and very nice analogies you have drawn. And I love the bus driver jobs, the soft skills, and the positive leadership. Really, the audience would be very enjoying this session, because they would have never thought in that way that even in bus driver we have this positive leadership qualities, and which are very much important, but nobody has taught in that way. And that's the beauty of the researcher, that they observe everything so minutely, and then they start thinking and connecting the different dots in a wonderful way. And you did a wonderful job today, as it was expected, that since you are a great speaker and expert, the same you communicated, and you have given a wonderful message to the world about the soft skill. And most importantly, 70% questions you have already addressed in your wonderful presentation, because that was the main concerns of the our audience, that what are the 2030 soft skills and how can they prepare for it, what are the latest jobs, what are the way you mentioned that which jobs are declining and which jobs are emerging. These were the questions and queries of the people, and you have addressed it and once in the your presentation. And I think this is just because you are conducting the research, you are in this field, so you know very well what are the different things which are the actually concerning issues regarding the audience that they want to know. So very nicely you have mentioned, and now we have received few more questions regarding your presentation even. So should we start with the first question, please?
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Prof, the question from the audience is that thank you very much, Prof, for such a wonderful content and powerful presentation you have shared with us, which was very interesting and very informative. Now, my question is since you have given the example of the engineering, my question is how does one add the soft skills to the required courses for BS and MS engineering education degree? What's your comment on that? Yes, please.
So, are we talking about an educator, a teacher? Because the way that it's usually done, we have a learning curriculum. So I don't know
Yes,
if the person who has asked the question, if he or she is actually in the design of curriculum.
yes, Prof. That is the actually teacher, the professor. He wants to ask that how can we incorporate in the curriculum? Yes, please.
Yes, so there are very different ways of teaching these soft skills. I can send you some books even. For example, we have different books that are specific for IT people. For example, because IT people or accountants, they also need soft skills. So you really have to look at the different professions. If you are teaching a group of engineers, I did not look very specifically. I mean, how would one teach these soft skills? But solving complex problems, you have a lot of activities that are meant to help you do that, but it's usually through projects. Yeah, so the best way to teach, in my opinion, is not just the theory, but it's a way that it's you can use different projects and train the capacity of the future engineers to solve complex problems. They can only improve themselves by trying to solve more problems. And so you can start with the less complex, and then adding more and more complex. But in general, I mean, you have to look at the curriculum. In Luxembourg, for example, you cannot simply add the types of activities that you want. I mean, there is a curriculum, and you have to follow the curriculum. For example, part of my research was that there is a vocational education institute where they actually introduced 40 hours of soft skills training for bus drivers. And so you had different days, and the different days were dedicated to different topics. And you had different teachers, different trainers who were coming there. And some of the examples they were giving were from distribution, but some of the examples were specifically from, related to the driving of a bus job. But usually you have to have a lot of examples that are specific to engineers in this case, examples that actually talk to them, projects. For example, we had one of the activities, because I was participating and taking notes during those courses, was to build. So they had different possibility to take a certain number of A4 papers. Yeah, so you use the A4 paper. You can ask for as many as you want, and you have to build. So you had two teams, and you had to build, but only with the A4 papers, to build different towers. But towers that, yeah, so with as many levels as possible. So the team that would win the competition was the team that had the tallest tower. How do you do that with only A4 papers? But you could ask the number of papers that you wanted, but you had to use all the paper. So this was a very, it seems like a very easy exercise, but actually they were working on the teamwork skills, because you were like 8 people in the team, so you had to calculate together. You had to come with a specific methodology. Okay, how do we calculate? How do we do it? You have to make a decision first, and then you have to implement it. Okay, we have to actually build it now. Okay, it's not solid enough. Okay, what do we do? What other technique can we use? So this was just a very simple example. They were not engineers, but this could also be used for engineers. It's because you are building something. So this was for the bus drivers that I was mentioning. But just to give you an example, so you can have a lot of different activities, different projects where they work together, they solve different things together, and you have to do a tailor-made curriculum if it's possible. If it's not something that comes from the Ministry of Education, then you just but designing a learning curriculum, it's not something that you do in an afternoon. You really have to have some experts who are doing this. You have to read, and but I can share with you some resources. There are some books that are in electronic, digital version, and they are free of charge. And you can have a look at some of the activities that are, for example, to improve soft skills of IT people. Yeah, so
Thank you very much for such an elaborative answer, Prof. Really liked your answer. And Prof, we have another very interesting question, and this is one of the teacher he wants to ask that Prof, in there is a general perception that social science graduates perform soft skills and competitiveness at workplace better than pure science graduate. What's your comment on that? And he has the second part of the same question is that Prof, mostly students ask me one question, that is there any particular age to start learning the soft skills, or they can be of any age? So please address my two questions. Yes,
mhm.
please.
Thank you very much for this very interesting questions. I will start with the second question. Because I think the earlier you start, the better it is, like anything in life. So that's why soft skills should be included in the curriculum, and you can do that, for example, including more presentations in the teaching methodology, teaching and learning. How do you have your students have a project, work on a project? Do they have to present it in front of the class? If you start doing that at a very early age, like they do in the US, yeah, this is something that in Luxembourg or Romania, my country of origin, we didn't used to do it. So it's usually you as a student, you're on your chair and you are listening to the teacher in front of you, and he's the master, and you have to follow and to believe everything he or she says. And usually you don't have to interrupt, you don't have to ask too many questions or to provoke, no provocative questions. But in the US, actually, it's encouraged to ask, to interrupt, not to wait, for example, until the end of a lecture to ask questions, to have an interactive learning session. When everybody's contributing. So that's my answer. The earlier you start, the better. For the first question, are the students from social sciences better at soft skills? They might be, because they probably they work more on for example, the emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence, what does it tell us? For example, when you read a poetry, yeah, or when you paint, yeah, you are more in the reflection position, where you think about the others, how will they react maybe when they see, or so it's more you become more empathetic. You actually develop a certain sensitivity. I think that it's maybe when you are just in a scientific class, generally there is no music or poetry or painting class, and I think this should be actually included for everyone. Even if you study science, you should have some kind of music and art classes, because they really have an importance in life. They help you develop your emotions, and accept your emotions and share your emotions. And when you work in a team, for example, just to relate to one of the soft skills, teamwork skill, it's very important that you think, okay, if I say this in this way, what will be the effect of my words on my colleague or on my superior or on my employee? If I say this in a very aggressive way, will he or she feel blocked? Will he or she feel more competitive? So you don't necessarily always think when it's just numbers and okay, it's just 1 + 1 is 2, but is it really 2? Maybe so it's numbers. It's very clear. You don't discuss so much, except if there are different formulas to to be used. But I think that's why they maybe you could we could say that students from social sciences are because they are developing, they are spending more time on developing their soft skills in a way that is not necessarily called the soft skills training, but it's kind of integrated in the curriculum. That's my personal opinion.
Very nicely said once again, Prof. Thank you very much for such a elaborative and incorporating your own experiences to this answer. Now, Prof, we have a wonderful comment for you first, and then we will go to the next question. The comment is from one of our students that she wants to thank you, that Prof, thank you for removing my doubt regarding that there is no consensus about the skills, that soft skills could be the people skills, that could be the other skills, social skills, because I was very much confused with that how can we define the soft skills. So thank you for removing my doubts. And now we have another very interesting question, which is very I would say very wonderful. They want to ask that, Prof, in your own opinion, please tell us, does there is any association between the good schooling and the enhancement of the soft skills, or it is the vice versa? Yes, please.
Sorry, I didn't get. So the good schooling and
The good school, if you have a good academic background, only then you would have a good command on soft skills, or it is nothing to do with the good academics. Yes, please.
yes. Thank you for this question. It makes me think of my own education. Yeah, I come from Romania, and in Romania we used to have some students who are really those learning by heart and having only 10 out of 10, like in terms of grades, and those who really enjoyed, they were passionate but not necessarily learning by heart. Yeah, they were more into projects, and maybe they, like myself, I didn't always have 10 out of 10. So sometimes I had an 8, I had maybe sometimes even a 7, but usually I had good grades, but not, I was not really trying to have just 10 out of 10. So this, what did I want to say with that? It's just learning, because this is the way that in Romania we assess the results. So again, we come to the assessment of, okay, so how am I graded? Am I graded based on reproducing knowledge, or am I graded based on solving, for example, complex problems, or coming up with a project, with a community project, or coming up with an initiative, or so it's about assessment of our educational sessions. And so I think you could have a very good academic background, with the only 10 out of 10. This is the grading scale in Romania. But actually, to be a person who didn't have a chance to work with other people in a project, was just very focused on himself or herself. So it's not, for me, it's not at all. There is not an equal between. So good academic background does not equal good soft skills, because it depends how we have this academic teaching and learning. If it's really focused on reproducing, or on solving problems and presenting and interacting, and so all this for me are very important. But you also have very good academic background and very good skills. So there is no rule for it. If you remember, I mentioned to you before that there are people who gain a lot of skills, not necessarily because they went to a very good school, but from community projects, from non-formal education, how we call it. Yeah, and now there is a trend that we try to give more value to this non-formal education, to those who didn't make it to the university, but who have really good skills and who have worked maybe and developed those skills, for example, by working in a company, by working with farmers, by, for example, leading a group of farmers. This is also, you really learn a lot by leading a group of farmers, but without necessarily having an academic background, an academic diploma or a master degree or PhD. So you could have people with both, but for me, it's not a sign. I mean, it's not, if somebody comes to you with a fantastic diploma, it's not sure that they will necessarily have all the soft skills to a level. And again, it's very complex. The question is very complex, and the answer is very complex, because again, it depends how we define and how do we assess. Is it a fantastic skill that this person has, or is it, oh, not really good? If my expectations are really high, because myself, I'm training myself and always learning new skills, then of course my expectation might be a little bit higher, and then you might be really good, but I might not see you that good. Yeah, so you understand what I mean? You could go to, for example, to an employer, to an interview, and they might consider that you're not good enough for the job. But this doesn't mean that you're not worth it. You don't have to lose confidence in yourself. It's just maybe you're not, meeting the needs of that particular employer. But there are so many other employers. If it's not that one, there will be another one. So you go to another one where your expertise and your skills will be valued. So that's really my. It's not just about diplomas. It's really about what you are able to do with diplomas. But of course, good academic education could be also a big plus.
Yeah. Wow, superb answer to this question. What a balanced answer you have given. You have given the both of the sides, that yes, there could be a people with the not a sound academic background, but they are very good at people skills, soft skills, but at the same time, very good academic background, and they are performing very well. So it depends,
Yes.
and very nicely you have mentioned it depends on the assessment and the other tools. Now we have one another. First, I would like to show the comment of the student, and then we can have the question of that student as well. I think you have shared your very novel information that we were not aware about at all. I learned a lot of new things through this session. Really like this talk. So that was the comment by Maha Sadaf. And now the question asked by her is the same. That thank you, sir. I have a question as a student. How can we work on ourselves to enhance our soft skills, which are recommended in this lecture? Any advice? Yes, please.
Yes, there are many ways, and one particular way that I worked on my soft skills when since I was a child, but it can also be done a little bit later, is by getting involved in a voluntary project. It doesn't matter what kind of an organization. It could be an organization helping poor children, learn maths if you are really good at math. It could help serving food to the poor in the streets. Because now again, it depends on which soft skills you would like to work on. But if it's about soft skills such as teamwork, such as communication, presentation. So all these people skills, those can very, in a very fantastic way, be developed by getting involved in a non-governmental, NGOs. And I think you have a lot in your area. So it could be related to education, it could be related to sports, it could be just organizing, for example, a competition for the kids, or a marathon, or I don't know, this kind of, like, it could be very simple things, but you can learn to work, you can learn to lead, you can learn to for example, respect hierarchy, you can learn um, how to have more authority in front of the others, to impose yourself, and to gain more self-confidence in the process. So this is really something. It might seem like not a big thing, but I assure you, you can get so much out of it, and you can also um, be in contact with people who might not appreciate you. So you learn how to deal with people who dislike you, because this is also in any company it happens. So you have to learn early on how to deal with this, how to be diplomatic, how to say things, how not to say things. And so all this can be learned if you get involved in a non-profit organization. So that's if I have to give one advice, this would be my advice.
Wow, very nice, Prof. I'm really enjoying the way you are answering, and that speaks for your grip and expertise on this topic, which is very wonderful. That's the great. Prof, I was going through the different questions which we have received in advance, and mostly 95% questions are already addressed by your presentation, because the presentation and the powerful content was so great that it has addressed. For example, I was going through like what are the soft skills important for the future of work? You have already answered it. Please, Prof, share the list of skills that will become prominent in 2030. You have already talked about it. And then they ask your recommendation regarding how to build the soft skills for upcoming workforce. You have already described it. Please tell us which industry is growing more in terms of the future, in terms of the soft skills. You have already addressed. Please tell us which industries are declining in terms of soft skills. You have already addressed. So there are so many questions which are already addressed. Finally, the last question which I would like to ask is, they want to ask you that, Prof, just share to your perspective. One is from teacher's perspective and one is from student perspective. Please tell us, how can, as a teacher, how can we assess the digital skills or the soft skills through online examination? And secondly, the students' perspective, they want to ask one question that, Prof, please guide us. How can we improve our digital skills for online examination? Yes,
How
please.
could we improve? How could we
Yes, yes.
improve? Mhm.
Exactly, because they are concerned regarding the interviews, because they are mostly asked that, please make 5 minutes video, so that for why do you fit for this job. So they want to have your recommendation that how can they improve their soft skill in terms of appearing in interview. Yes, please.
Yes. So regarding the teacher's perspective, the teachers, I gave you already some resources, and I would be very happy if Dr. Shah will actually share with you this presentation, so you can have actually the links. So you have different resources, different tools that will help you to assess. Of course, everything is subjective, but this is meant to be a little bit more general, more objective. I know there might be others. I mean, as an employer, we use our own. I'm an employer, so I've been hiring and firing a lot of people, and it's not always very pleasant. But I have my own questions. I have my own questionnaire based on the specificity of my business, because I'm the owner of a language school and translation company. So in this specific field, I worked on some questions, on some situations. For example, when I ask somebody why they fit, what they would be a good teacher, I don't ask them just like that. I ask them, Imagine you are in a classroom with this type of students. What would you do in the first 10 to 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes? Or ask them a little bit more specific and situational questions, because that will give me an understanding of their expertise and whether or not. Because very often what I found out is that people lie. So a lot of people lie. They enhance their experience. They say, okay, I've been leading a team of 60 people for 5 years, and then I ask them very specific questions to figure out if they really had this experience. Because you can tell me anything you want, but I want to see, okay, if I put you in this situation, you have to, for example, for a bus driver, I want to hire a bus driver and I want to see if he will be under pressure. Okay, what do? You have to imagine a situation where you could ask the person, well, imagine you have three people in your bus and they are aggressing a young woman. What do you do? And then you can see how they respond. So really assessing the skills is not going to be ever 100% neutral and objective. It's very subjective, because it depends on the needs of the employers, the needs of you don't have just one type of employer. You have so many types of employers. For example, you have a company, Talk Worker in Luxembourg. They're actually international, and they put a lot of emphasis on diversity, on bringing a lot of nationalities to work together. They put a lot of emphasis on projects, community projects. They actually give 1 day per month. They pay to their employees 1 day just for them to do a community project. So the way that they look at different employees who are candidates, who send their CV, will be very different than if you go to a company who just wants, okay, you work from 9 to 5, you just do your hours. So you really have to have a good understanding of the company who is looking to employ those students of yours that you are training. So not because they do a test and it's going to be really, they say, yes, I have a very good sense of initiative. I am very good at that. Here it's a lot of, it's very often self-assessment. Yeah. But you could say that you are very good because that's what you think. However, if an employer or if a teacher has a different perspective and a different expectation, your skills are not going to be. So I don't know if you understand what I mean. Everything is very subjective. That's what I try to understand, to explain to you. Everything is so subjective that you could never 100% say this person, unless the person has a very long experience, yes, in the field, and then he or she went always to courses, train himself on the latest technologies. Because even in IT, we're talking. You asked me about digital skills, but digital skills are changing. IT people are those who really have to study the most, because you always have new things. Technology is changing so fast. So you cannot say that you might be good today, but maybe you are no longer good in 12 months if you didn't do anything to train yourself and to continue to learn, to keep yourself competitive in the market. So you could do these assessments by using the resources, the tools that I have included in this presentation. But keep in mind that those are just a reflection of a specific moment in time. And because everything in our society and economy is changing, you cannot just validate something based on a specific moment. So you have to encourage your students. Okay, you might be very good. You had only A's if it's a different type of scale. Yeah, you only had the best grades, but don't sleep Now, don't stay and no longer learn. Continue to learn. Continue to participate in these fantastic sessions organized by Dr. Shah. Continue to learn. Keep yourself always interested. Keep yourself up to date, because that's the key of being competitive in, in 5 years and 10 years as you are today. Then coming back to the perspective of the students, how to improve your skills. Again, we're talking about projects. It's I don't have a different answer than really projects, doing things. You gain a lot of experience by working. Yeah, so it's learning by doing. That's the best in my opinion. This is why, if you have a chance, for example, from early on in your life to do some kind of internships, to be immersed, even if you are not paid. I mean, I did that a lot, and I did a lot of voluntary work when I was really in the company, helping in different ministries. For example, in the Ministry of Culture, I was doing a lot of voluntary work, even if it was like at the reception, just helping with the reception, because I speak different languages. They needed an extra pair of ears and an extra pair of hands, and I was there, I was available, and I took the opportunity. And just by being there, doing this internship a few months, if you can afford, if you have the time, and if you can spare a few hours or a few months, it depends, of course, on your age and on your family situation. But do try to be immersed in different type of companies where you even if you don't do a lot, I mean, you just stay at the welcome desk, maybe just welcoming customers, or just selling, I don't know, just selling popcorn for a charity. It might seem like nothing fantastic, but actually you get to learn uh, how they do the coordination of the entire project. You get to learn about what works best in terms of selling a product, what kind of things you have to say to attract the customer. So it's really, I mean, by projects, that's the best way, I would say. I don't have something. I mean, there are a lot of activities. Again, the resources that I have included could be used also. Individually, and I will keep in touch with Dr. Shah, and I will send you this extra materials with different activities that you can do with your, I mean, it could be with your colleagues, with your friends, or you can try to see what you can do by yourself. Try to look, because these activities, I mean, they were done for European people, but I don't see why they could not be used, because there are universal values and universal skills, so they could be used in a different context. So these resources that I included, if you get a chance to really look at the content, you'll have a lot of materials to work on, also for teaching, so for teachers, but also for students to learn by yourself. So I hope this answers the question.
Yes, Prof. Thank you very much. And I love the way you answer it. And you have mentioned very rightly that it is very subjective in terms of assessment and how you are going to do it, which was for teachers. And then your student perspective was wonderful, that learn by doing it and by doing through different projects and etc. A very nice comment, and I would say very practical advices you have given to the world, and that's wonderful part. And you can see now the student is really thanking you for addressing her question, which was very nice. And really, this is how the people listen to you, and they take their advice, your advice as an expert, and they try to grow. And that is our wish, that yes, people learn from it and they can improve a lot. So really, Prof, I really enjoyed the way you have given this wonderful presentation and the great content. I would say the slides were heavily loaded with the references, with the statistic, which was the great part. I love in terms of researcher, that because the researcher, they always speak with the statistics, and you have mentioned it very nicely. Prof, at the end of the session, we ask each our guest about the message to the world. So, what is your message to the world as a speaker, author, teacher, researcher, trainer, learner, professional, and educator? Yes, please.
Okay, that's oh wow. That in one sentence, if I have to give just one advice, I would say treat the others the way you want to be treated. That's really the only advice that I would have for you.
Wow,
And
what
if
a
we have
power!
that, yes, if we have that, I think we would have less wars in the world and we would have less problems. So just treat the others the way you want to be treated yourself.
Very nice, Prof. And this is called you have squeezed the ocean into a drop, and it explains everything in a single sentence. And we will have much better life, much better planet on this wonderful. We have blessed with a wonderful planet, and if we take your this advice, that would actually take us on a very wonderful way. So, really, very wonderful message you have given to the world. Thank you very much for such a wonderful presentation and powerful explanation which you have given. Is really interesting. To the audience, that please do follow the distinguished guest speaker through her research work, and you can email her for future learning and guidance. She is always ready to help you. She is very generous. Moreover, the powerful explanation and the powerful content which she explained will help you to elaborate more and to learn more about these soft skills. So take advantage of all the information, important tips, and suggestions shared by an expert. That's all we have time for today. And thank you once again, Ms. Daniela Lecramiara Clara. So, and also I would like to thank our audience who joined us. If you have any additional question about information shared today, please email us or connect to the speaker directly through her email address or the social media account. Thank you all for your support and liking our session. Stay tuned as many sessions are on the way. Please do not miss any session. And until next session.